Hello and welcome to the Tough Girl podcast, which is all about motivating and inspiring you. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. Today, I'm delighted we're going to be speaking to Nicky Spinks, who is a 51-year-old British long-distance runner specialising in fell running. Nicky was the first person ever to run a Double Ramsay Round in the Scottish mountains, 116 miles, 57,000 feet of ascent, 48 peaks, which she did in a time of 55 hours and 56 minutes. Hi, Nicky.
Hi.
Massive congratulations on the Double Ramsay. What an absolutely incredible achievement. You must be absolutely buzzing.
Yes, I am. I've recovered quite well, and now I'm buzzing a bit more. Initially, it's just feeling fairly zonked and wanting to sleep a lot.
Oh, I mean, it's a huge physical achievement, and obviously we're going to be speaking about that in more detail, and I'll get you to explain more about what the Double Ramsay is, and also we're going to be talking about some of your other challenges from the I'm going to forget what it's called now. Not the Double Ramsay, it is the Double Bob Graham. That's the one. But Nicky, how, for people who maybe haven't heard about all these rounds and some of the running and challenges that you've done, how would you introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, as a farmer and a fell runner, and then I got into ultra running. But instead of just doing it on the trails, I'm doing ultra running on the fells, and so I'm just going longer and longer on the actual fells.
Is running something that you've always done? Has it always been a part of your life? Did you grow up as a runner?
Sort of. I grew up on a farm in Glossop, and I just used to run to go and get my pony in, or to go and get the cows in to milk them, or things like that. I'd go and see my friend on the neighbouring farm. So I didn't really think of myself as a runner as a kid, but I just ran everywhere anyway. And as I left the farm, I went into office work, and I sort of piled the weight on and just felt really unfit. So that's when I sort of started running, just to keep fit 3 times a week, just to keep fit, and I did that for many years, really.
Growing up on a farm sounds incredibly idyllic. Was it just you? Were you an only child, or did you have any brothers and sisters?
No, we had I've got 2, a brother and a sister, and then 2 stepbrothers and a stepsister, so there were 6 kids. And my dad and my stepmum on the farm, and it was quite wild because it was up above Glossop, so the weather was really rough. We grew up fairly sort of free, really.
I can just imagine you sort of like going outside, running around, always having playmates, to go running with. I mean, it must have been a bit of a change, sort of going into the office world from farm life. I always don't want to make assumptions and sort of say, did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? And how long did you last before you sort of decided to change?
It was about 7 years. The farm was only a small farm. My dad used to work in computers, and so I sort of followed him into computers, and I quite like computers. So working with them was nice, but working in an office and looking outside was really frustrating. So I coped for about 7 years, and then I was actually applying to agricultural colleges, and I just happened to meet my husband at a skydiving centre because I was skydiving. And he was a dairy farmer, so I asked if I could come and milk his cows. And he said yes.
Brilliant chat up line. I've never used that one.
Yeah.
So it must have been amazing moving out to the farm. But when did running start? When did you start to take running almost more seriously, or start to go for longer distances?
So I moved in with Steve in 1991, and for a long time we were just really too busy working to have any energy or thoughts of running. I mean, I was really fit, but it was like working fit. And then about 2001, a friend of mine was doing triathlons, and I started running with her. And we did sort of Dewsbury 10K and the Great North Run. And at that time I was sort of thinking, this is okay. This is nice running, but it's on the roads, and I'm used to being on the land. So I sort of swapped to running on the land and found that so much more enjoyable. Instead of just piling out miles, it was like looking around and watching where you were putting your feet, and just so much more interesting. So I swapped onto the fells, but I was still only doing distances up to about 10 miles. So it was a big leap to do a 20-mile fell race.
Where did that leap come from? Why did you decide to go for a 20-mile fell race after, sort of sticking around the 10-mile mark?
I think I joined a club called Penistone Footpath Runners because they're on the edge of the peaks, and they did road running and fell running. And there was this race, Marsden to Edo, which was 20 miles and very local to us. So we could do lots of recce's and training on the ground. So, and it was that really inspired me, because it just seemed really awesome to do a race across mountains where you had to navigate, and the checkpoints were sort of 2 hours apart and things like that. And when I did the race, I think I was about 4th overall, but I just really enjoyed it. I set off nice and steady and then caught people, and I just didn't feel any sort of pain at all. It was just all a big high for me. And that was the start of it, really, which would be about 2004, 2005. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Would you say that you're a competitive person?
Yes, I am competitive, but a lot of the time I can use races as training, so I can sort of tame the competitive down, because I want to just maybe do 2 races in one weekend or things like that. So I've found that I can either race or properly, or I can train to race, if you see what I mean, race to train.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about what you've achieved most recently, the Double Ramsay. Can you just explain to everyone a little bit more about what the Ramsay is, what the Double Ramsay is, and how it came about?
Well, I did the Double Bob Graham in the lake, which is the same sort of thing. It's a challenge, 24-hour challenge, and so usually they're about 65 miles, and the 28,000 feet of climb. That's sort of a general, not a rule, but a sort of feeling that that's how big these challenges should be. And you've got 24 hours to do them. So I did the Bob Graham way back in 2005, and then I did the double in 2016. And after I did the double, so the Bob Graham is sort of 65 miles and 42 tops, and I did it twice in 45 and a half hours. And I did have some really rough patches, but actually it wasn't sort of so horrendous that it put me off doing any more doubles. And when I finished that, I just sort of thought, I wonder if the one in Scotland is possible, because it's a very special round. It's a little bit shorter, so it's about 60 miles, 62 miles, I think. And but it's got 24 sort of huge hills in it that usually go to about 900, 1,000 meters high. Includes Ben Nevis at 1,330, I think. And so 24 mountains, and 23 of them are Munros. So it's a huge challenge, and there aren't as many paths as what there are on the Bob Graham. And only 113 people have ever completed one Charlie Ramsay round, and 2 of those he records. If you do 2 rounds, then he records it. So 2 of those are actually mine. I did one in 2008 in 22 and a half hours, and then I went for the record, the ladies' record. I can't remember what year, but I did that in 1939 hours. And I was the second person to do under 20 hours for that round. So I knew I could do it quite fast, but not that fast for 2 of them. And it was something that I wanted to go back to Scotland. I love Scotland, and almost you sort of need an excuse to get back to these places that you love. Because Scotland's 7 hours from Huddersfield in a car, so it's quite a sort of commitment to decide to go up there and spend a weekend on the hills. Is actually sort of 3 days really. So all last winter I was up there recceing, and there was a lot of snow, and that it was really enjoyable to be up there in the snow, but it meant I couldn't really do a lot of recceing. But yeah, I was sort of quite happy with the recce when it came to the actual round.
Do you know what I think is really fascinating is the journey that you've been on? So, from what you said, you started running in 2001 with a friend. You got up to about sort of 10 miles before you decided to do your first 20 miler. You joined a club. It took you to the next level. And then almost, 4 or 5 years later, you've gone on to do the Bob Graham round, which is huge in 2005. And then, about 10 years later, you went on to do the double. So how would you sort of describe your running career, your running journey that you've been on?
Well, I don't think I rush things. I sort of take the next step, and then once I've succeeded in that, I sort of look again. And if I don't succeed, then I sort of stay there. I revisit it. So at the moment, and that's how I've sort of done. So I've done a few 100-mile races as well in between. And again, if I'm really, it's not that I'm successful. I don't win them or anything, but I just like to be happy with my performance with the races. And I know I think I'm quite structured in this, so I don't over train or over race. I'm quite disciplined in my training. And I think I know now the capabilities of my body, and I listen to it quite carefully. So if I feel tired, I just back off. There's no point trying to train when you're tired. And I think that's where I'm just managing to get the most out of my body, or the best out of my body. And that's what I've always tried to do.
What do you think has been the biggest challenge that you've had to face over this time period?
Well, it's not running, it's cancer. So I always thought running was a challenge, but actually no, cancer's definitely the biggest challenge I've ever faced in my life.
Oh, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it was 2006. I'd had an attempt at the Paddy Buckley Round, which is the third round out of the three UK rounds. Lake District in England, and then Snowdonia is the Paddy Buckley in Wales, and then the Charlie Ramsay Round. So it was 2006, and I'd had an attempt on the Paddy Buckley Round, but the weather was really foul, and I got round in about 25 and a half hours. And it was a month later that my husband found a lump in my breast, and we didn't really think anything of it, so I just trotted off down to the doctors like you do, and he didn't really confirm it there and then. He sent me off to the clinic, and again I just went on my own. I didn't really think anything of it, and then I was there all day, and as I think there were about 25 women started the various tests, and at the end of the day there was only 2 of us left, and that got a bit worrying. And they told me then that I probably had cancer, which was just a huge shock. So I think I just went straight for a mastectomy. I don't know why, because I could have had a partial one and radiotherapy and stuff, and I'd rather get rid of more of it than less of it, I think. And and then the reconstruction. So the whole thing took about a year not out of my life, but to sort of have all the operations and reconstruction treatment and stuff.
How did you handle going through that? I mean, emotionally, it just must have been, horrendous.
I was quite surprised, really, how I think with doing the training for the running, I almost just applied that to the cancer. So just before going in for the operations, I tried to, like it was a race. I sort of prepared well. I ate well. I had a haircut to try and sort of cheer myself up, so that I knew I'd be, loads of mirrors in the hospital, and I knew I'd be feeling fairly rough and looking fairly rough. So I sort of tried to think, well, I'll have a new haircut so that at least I'll be able to look nice. I just ate really well. And I sort of planned out what I was going to eat when I woke up from the operation and how I was going to sort of recover. And I think when I did wake up, I think definitely being fit helped me recover. I mean, even the surgeons were gobsmacked that I was sort of up and about so quickly and looking quite bright. And I think it's because our bodies are just used to repairing after what we do to them in training. And so they just treat an operation as the same. They just go, oh, right, we've got to like repair this. Let's get on with it. So, yeah, I think mentally afterwards, it was all the tests and just the ongoingness where it drags out and you're never quite sure whether you're clear of it or not. The worrying of whether it's spread. That lasted about 3 weeks because they tested the tissue that they took out. And that, I think that's period was the hardest to sort of get through, where you just sort of imagine that the cancer's crawling through your body. Yeah, that's horrid. And then, of course, you can't plan because you don't know how much more of your life you've got. And I was only 39, so it was a bit daunting. So I think I started to sort of think, right, because it was July and I thought, right, I'm going to get to Christmas. And so I started sort of celebrating smaller things in my life. I celebrated loads, like a weekly celebration, really, of just living another week. And then that's why I did the Double Bob Graham, because it was 10 years since I'd had the cancer. And I wanted something really special to sort of celebrate it with, to show that I was like, you know, still out there. And also to help people that are maybe getting cancer now. I wanted them to sort of see me and think, you know, it's not all over. Because I think a lot of getting over the cancers, like if you've got mental strength, I think it helps a lot, you know, to get up in the morning when you don't feel like it and to sort of achieve something every day so that you feel a little bit like you've still got a life that's worth living.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. While you were going through your recovery, and obviously running has been such a huge part of your life, how easy was it for you to get back to running again? And were you having to start, not from the beginning, but, you know, how did you transition back to getting back to full fitness?
So I started running about 3 weeks after the operation because I felt like I wanted to get out on the fells again. It was very slow and my legs were very heavy. And I think I just went straight back into it, really, which might have been a mistake because for about a year, it wasn't enjoyable. It all just seemed really hard work. And I think I underestimated how much operations take out of your body and maybe the stress of it as well. Because, yeah, I just never felt very light or springy or anything. But I went back to Wales and I was still training for the Paddy Buckley. I was determined to do it again. So, and that, I think it was good just having some motivation, something to aim at that wasn't, operations and appointments and stuff. It was nice to get out and forget about the whole cancer thing, because you can, when you're on the hill, you just, for a couple of hours, you give your brain a break from it. So, yeah, I got back fairly quickly into actual running, but I don't think I was properly fit again for about a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you talked about, I said, you know, you before your operations, that, you know, you prepared well, you treated it like a race, and that you were eating well as well. What's your diet like? Because, you know, with the amount of training that you're doing, with the amount of races, you know, what are you, paleo? Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? Are you carnivore? You know, what are you eating?
Being a beef farmer, I'm definitely a carnivore. Yeah, I think all I eat, I don't follow any special diet. I just eat a lot of fresh vegetables. I absolutely love my vegetables, and put that with sort of meat, cheese, protein. Really, it's sort of the old style of eating, farmhouse kitchen, I think. Meat and 3 veg for a lot of it, but not sort of like Sunday dinner types. I mean, I quite like, and I make a lot myself. I make everything, really. Even if we have pies, it's my chicken pies. I make a big batch of like small chicken pies and pizzas and things and pasta. So I think that's it. I don't like eating processed food at all. That's one thing I really just don't like, anything packaged and processed and made up for me. So much better if you can make it yourself and then you know what's gone into it.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. So let's talk about the Double Ramsay in a little bit more detail. Mentally, how do you get yourself prepared for a race like this? Because, it's a long time on your feet. It's a big distance. There's lots of climbing. There's lots of descents. To talk us through that mental preparation before.
It was quite strange with the Ramsay because when I did the Bob Graham double, I couldn't think further than the 30 hours because I knew I could do 30 hours. So I couldn't really think further than that. And I did 45 and a half, but at the 30-hour mark on the Bob Graham, I had a real downer because I didn't have confidence in myself to do the next sort of 18 hours. But with the Ramsay, it didn't happen like that. The only thing that was sort of freaking me out a bit was the 48 Monroes. That just sounded quite a lot. And I didn't know if my legs would actually keep me going for that amount of time. But it was funny. I think everything's relative. So the legs on the Ramsay are sort of 7 or 8 hours, whereas on the Bob Graham, they're 4 to 5. So you just have to you set off and you leave a road stop and you're going to be on the hill for 8 hours. And that's that really. And I think in the Requiem, we spent a lot of time on the hills. We were doing huge days, like 13, 15-hour days. And I think you just get used to the fact that you've got all your food and you've just got to keep going. And of course you have like low spots, but you'll also have big high spots, and you get used to going through the low spots really. So it didn't daunt me at all actually, which I thought was very strange as well. I think the thing that was really worrying me before I started was the heat. I just knew I'm not great in heat. I can do heat, but it was whether I could do so much of the heat. That was more worrying than the actual. I think I've got my head round. That's my saying about things. When you get your head round something, then you're fine about it.
How do you get yourself out of those low spots? Do you do anything? Do you have any tips or tricks? Anything that you rely on or use, whether it's mantras or saying or actions that you do, or is it a case of just waiting it out?
I start off by going through the fact that there's nothing actually wrong, that this is just a low spot. Your legs are fine, this is fine, your stomach's fine. So that's a bit of a sort of like sort yourself out really, because there's actually nothing really wrong. And then I look about and just think, you're really lucky to be here. I mean, the scenery was absolutely stunning. The weather and the sunsets and the sunrises, and then the moon came out. We could see for miles. You just couldn't complain about the scenery at all. And I just felt how lucky I am to be up there, fit and well, and actually able to run for however many hours it had been. And yet, I think that was it. And once you've done all that, really, I think if that doesn't work, then you're probably in the wrong place. You don't really deserve to be there if you can't sort of see how special it is that you are there. And maybe because of the cancer, and maybe because I just think, well, it's a lot bloody better than having cancer, isn't it? That you're out here running, you're fit, and you've got your friends with you, and everything's going well, really. So just get on with it.
Absolutely. And you talked about the heat as well, and I've done the Marathon des Sables, so I personally absolutely love the heat. It's like bring on 30 degrees. That's my total element. But what tips and tricks do you use for dealing with the heat while you're out there?
Well, Saturday was forecast to be hot, and so I did this on the UTMB when the forecast was the same. It was supposed to be, the UTMB you set off at 6 o'clock at night. So you've got a full night, and then you're into sort of the sun as it is. And one year when it was forecast to be hot, I thought, right, I've got to stay hydrated all night, and that's what I did. And when it got hot during the day, I found I could cope with it a lot better. So I set off on the Friday night on the Ramsay, and I was doing the same. I was drinking far more than what I sort of would happily drink, really. And And also I had some salt tablets because I actually got twinges of cramp really early on, which was extremely worrying that, within 4 hours I was getting cramp. So I had the salt tablets and I was drinking quite a lot, and I was having some zero tablets things in my drinks as well, and just tried to stay on top of it all. And that really helped during the Saturday. Although it was hot and I got a little bit out of breath if we were in the direct sunlight while climbing, I didn't overall feel too hot. I could see my supporters were really hot and I didn't actually feel too hot. So I think that really helps, just to make sure you're really hydrated. And also I think by the time it gets hot, you're in that cycle of drinking, going to the loo quite often. You just keep going with that, and that's good. It's a good sort of cycle to get into. It's a good habit to sort of be drinking and going to the loo quite often.
I was going to say, with races like the Double Ramsay, is it a set route that most people go on, or do you have more sort of tactical control about the route you go, what time you start it?
Well, you can start at any time you like. So the midnight start, it did help me because obviously I'd done some in the cooler air before it got hot. I'd also planned that at midday I wasn't there's about 2 hours of running in a valley and I wasn't there. It was at 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night that I did the valley section. And then the next day, on the Sunday, I was hoping that midday-ish I would be up on the Grey Corries, which again is a ridge, so you're never dropping right back down to 0 meters into the heat. So yeah, it did. And the route choice again. You've got your own route choices. There's a set number of tops that you've got to visit, but as to which route you take in between them, you've got a choice of whatever you want, really.
Cool. So we've talked about the mental training that you've done, how you get your head in the right frame of mind while you're on the race, how you deal with the low spots and get through them. In terms of physical preparation and getting your body ready for this, do you work with a coach? Do you have a set training plan? How do you train?
Well, I do. I coach myself, so and I coach other people. So I'm quite happy. I do my own training plan. I did one. Well, I do a sort of a full plan, which I think I did about last November, which led right up to this. And then I'll do 8-week plans for myself. And I think I just change them if I need to change them along the way. But I know what I need to put in to get, I did some recce's last year in Scotland and thought I'm not strong enough yet. I need more climb in my legs, because around the Lake District and Wales and around the Peak District, the biggest climb you can get is about 45 minutes to an hour. Whereas, you go up to Scotland and Ben Nevis is, an hour and a half, 2 hours. All the climbs are way, way bigger, and you've just got to get that into your legs. Hill reps are okay, but as you're running down the hill, of course, you're having a rest. So your legs need to sort of get used to the fact that you're going to be climbing for a certain amount of time. So then over the winter, I went up to Scotland quite a lot, and that's where I put in these huge days, back-to-back huge days as well, because the second day is always the hardest, obviously. And so it's always good to actually plan a huge second day and make yourself get out of bed at 6 o'clock and you're off up the hill. And that, I think that's what I put into my training quite a lot. And then I also did quite a lot of long races. There was the Ultra Tour of Snowdonia in May, and it was a brilliant, because there's a 50 mile and a 100 mile. And although I was tempted by the 100 mile, I didn't think I'd recover quickly enough. So I entered the 50 mile race, and it had, I can't remember, about 6,000 meters of climb. It was quite a lot. So, it was a brilliant training race for me. It was just about the right time, about the 12th of May. So it was, enough time for me to recover from it and use it as a training race. And then I think I gave myself about 2 days recovery, and I went up to Scotland and had 2 more days up in Scotland. And that was my really heavy sort of week, my hardest week that I did before the Ramsay.
Do you ever want to quit, or do you ever want to stop when you're out there?
I didn't do, no. People were really surprised that I finished the Ramsay, but I never once sort of thought I'm going to not go. I think because my legs were absolutely fine and my stomach was fine. So the two really important things, and my head was fine, obviously. So nothing was really making me want to stop. On the last leg, I got some blisters, and which was so annoying because I tried to look after my feet, but I got these blisters and they were really painful. But I still didn't want to stop. It just got rather painful. I couldn't run, which was very annoying because it was very rocky and I just kept banging these blisters. But yeah, so no, I never wanted to stop on it, and I don't think on any races or runs or anything, I rarely want to actually sort of stop. If I'm having a bad spell, usually the first thing I do is eat something, because often I think it's a sugar dip. I once went on a first aid training course, and the woman said, "Oh, the brain is a sugar junkie," and I think she's dead right. If the brain's not getting enough sugar, you just don't feel very happy about life in general, and your performance and everything. So. Yeah, and that often works, actually. 20 minutes later, you just suddenly feel a little bit cheerfuler and a bit more positive about it all. So,
what was it like coming into the final few miles, knowing without a doubt that you were, you're going to get the record, you're going to complete it? What was that like for you?
I think it was a bit strange. I think I was I don't know, it felt like I'd just finished a long day's recce. And then it was only when I saw the people and and Lee Proctor said to me, he says, you have to run. Like, why? He says, because everybody's there. I was like, oh, yeah, I suppose you're right, actually, Lee. Yeah, but I was just poddling down, talking to my friends. Yeah, glad to be finished. And they said to me, what do you want when you finish it? I went, I'm going to have a full breakfast. In fact, I'm going to have a double full breakfast. And that's what they made for me, 2 of everything. So I was when I saw that, I was definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, so it was great to know I'd done it. I think I was just a bit, really, really tired. That was 3 nights without any sleep. So, yeah, it did take somebody to tell me that I needed to sort of like cheer up about this. And I'd done a great thing, because at the time I think I was just ready for some proper food to eat and my bed.
Absolutely. I mean, the sleep deprivation is a huge part of any of these races, especially when you're going longer than 24 hours and you've gone almost 3 days. Are you power napping? Are you stopping? Are you carrying a sleeping bag or anything with you to have quick naps, or is it just a case of powering on through?
I really thought that I would want a sleep, so I'd got people on the route where I could sleep, and I tried to lie down twice, but it just wasn't happening. I think if you don't fall asleep within sort of a minute, then you're not going to fall asleep. I just lay there and was a little bit frustrated that I was wasting time, so I didn't sleep. Whereas on the Bob Graham, I got into that zombie stage, and I had this wonderful power nap for 10 minutes, and I think on the Ramsay I was hoping I was going to have the same, but I didn't do. But actually I didn't sort of need it, because then I just gave myself a bit of a talking to, and got up. And I think even the physical, just having 10 minutes lying down, resting, instead of thinking about where you put your feet and everything, I think that does help you. It just revitalizes you a little bit. And I don't know how I managed 3 nights sleep. And even afterwards, I didn't go straight to sleep. It was really strange.
Could you talk through a little bit more about your recovery? What do you do when you come back from any of these challenges? Do you have a set routine, a set things that you do to help get better, or is it just very dependent on how you're feeling?
I think sleep's the most important. So I try to go to bed early, sort of like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So yeah, the first couple of nights, I mean, obviously on the Monday night I slept really, really well. Just, didn't have to think about trying to sleep. And so then I've had Tuesday, Wednesday, and last night, and I'm having this ridiculous dream where I'm going to have to run for another 7 hours, and I need to get up and sort my feet out because I've got another 7 hours. Even last night, I was like, look, you're in bed, you don't have to run for another 7 hours. So I think during the mental period of me keeping myself going, I don't think I've switched off yet. I'm still convinced I've got another 7 hours to go. When I go to sleep really well, and then I wake up having this dream. Well, I wake up out of this dream because I know I don't have another 7 hours to go, and I've got to convince myself somehow. So yeah, that's quite annoying. So my sleep since Monday has not been as brilliant as what I'd like, but I have been, sleeping really well. My feet were so swollen. And today they've gone down to like a proper size. I can get my own shoes back on. Because before I've been wearing size 8 shoes instead of size 6.5.
Wow. I mean, do you get massages? Do you use a foam roller? Are you having Epsom salt baths? Do you do anything like that to help you recover, or is it just getting back into the farming?
Well, my husband was really nice. Tuesday, I obviously wasn't capable of doing anything. We had some hay to deliver on Wednesday. That was pretty hard work because it's really hot as well. And it's that standing on the bales was really unstable. But yeah, we managed to deliver 100 bales. And then yesterday, I mean, I'm walking around the cows okay. And that's quite nice, actually. I like doing that in the morning. It just gets you out, and it's about an hour's walk to walk around all the cows. And yeah, that I think that gets your legs going as well, because I don't like just sitting inside. I've had quite a lot of office work to do since I got back. But I try and do a couple of hours office work and then find something to do sort of outside or somewhere so that I'm moving around a bit, 'cause you stiffen up too much otherwise. I usually get a sports massage, but actually I haven't done. My legs are absolutely fine. It's really annoying. I think it's annoying because I know I could have gone faster, and I couldn't do it at the time because of the blisters and the heat. But my legs, they don't even feel sore. I didn't even going up and down the stairs straight away was just fine. The blisters, now that I've managed to pop them properly, are okay. And I actually went for a run last night. Because I was inside all day doing work and office work. I know farming shouldn't be all office work, but there's a fair bit of it. And my friends were going for a run on the moors, and I just thought, I'll take Wisp and we'll just go out for an hour. And it was really nice. It was really quite nice to be out there again. But I was surprised I could run. I don't often run within a week. There we go.
Would you go back and do it again and try and break your own record? Is that tempting, knowing, hearing what you just said, that, I knew I could do it a little bit faster?
It sort of is, but I've also promised myself that I will move on and not just keep going over the same hills. While going round this round, I could look across and see just so many more mountains that I want to sort of go up, and different things, I can explore. So it's getting a bit, samey to keep going up and down the same mountains. So I don't think I'm going to go back. I'm just going to have to draw a line under the fact that I didn't do 48 hours when I know I can. Because also, if I went for it again, something else will only go wrong. I'd probably be sick all the way around instead, or sleep deprivation. That's the thing with the ultra running, is things go wrong and it's not the same thing every time. So you try and sort of like control as many of the things that are going wrong as you can. So, but yeah, something else would go wrong. So no, I don't think I should. I think I should move on.
So do you know what you'd like to move on to? Do you have a bucket list of different races that you'd like to go and do? Would you like to do sort of more further afield, or are you quite happy sort of running in the UK?
Well, I'm already entered into the Ultra Tour Mont Blanc at the end of it's about the first week in September. So I'm really looking forward to going back out, and this would be fantastic training for that. I probably don't need to do a huge amount more between now and then. I did half of the race last year and got this huge chest infection, so dropped out. So I'm looking forward to going back to that. And then, I haven't really thought about what else to do. But
tell us a little bit more about that race.
Ultra Mont Blanc, it's 100 miles, and it starts from Gracken and goes round Monte Rosa. And I love the UTMB, but I don't like the crowds really. I'd much rather run with like less people and on smaller trails. And so I chose the Monte Rosa because of that. And then when I did it last year, it was fantastic. The scenery is absolutely stunning, and you're sort of on your own little bits. You're running with nice people, nice pace. It was just a great race. Took you up onto some really high plateaus with some really lovely lakes. And I'm looking forward to sort of seeing the third that I missed. It's 100 miles and about, I think, 11,200 meters of climb. So, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping I'll do about 36, 38 hours. So it all sounds really relative now.
Amazing. So Nicky, what sort of advice and tips would you have for women who do want to take their running to the next level, to start going for these more ultra distances? What advice would you have?
Yeah, I think, don't let people put you off. Everybody's capable of it. I'm only here because I work, and I've worked out how my body responds to my, the training. I don't do a huge amount of miles a week, maybe 30, 40. Everyone's really surprised. They think I should be, I'll be doing 60, 70, but you don't have to do a huge amount of miles a week, so long as what you're doing is quality miles and not just churning out miles for the sake of it. And you need your hard and your easy weeks in a training plan. The recovery is just as important as the training, really. And I would say just go for a goal that is realistic. There's no point entering a fantastic race that you'd really love to do when the cut-offs are really harsh. So sort of look at, if you want to do something, then look at, all the aspects of it, really, like how much climb there is in it and whether it's marked or not. Because if it's not a marked course, then that's another aspect of it that you need to learn, sort of navigation. But so I just pick something that's maybe like twice the distance that you're used to doing. So if you're used to doing 10 miles, you could easily work up to doing 20 miles. I would think in sort of six months or a year, something like that. So it's pick a realistic goal, and then set a plan out and do your training. And do everything that you can, sort of the research into the race as well. Sort of like what food do they provide you with, and where are the checkpoints, and what are the distances between the checkpoints, so that you just know how long you're going to be out on your feet in between the checkpoints. And then I'd go and do it. So okay, you can. Well, if there's anything else that you think I should suggest. I mean, a decent pair of shoes is always. Yeah, especially for off-road. I mean, I am sort of partially sponsored by Innovate, but they do a huge range of shoes. And there's no point going off-road in road shoes. You definitely need a pair of trail shoes or fell shoes to do that. Absolutely. And then, equipment. But yeah.
So Nicky, you actually do blogging as well. Do you just want to share a little bit more about your blog, and then we can just quickly talk about your coaching?
Yeah. Well, I've had a website going for years. I actually started it up when I got cancer, so that people could maybe learn about my experiences and that would help them. So I started it up about 2006, and it's www.runbg.co.uk. But I think if you Google Nicky Spinks, you should hopefully find that. And yeah, there's sort of the news pages where I put my like diary of what I'm doing, and I try and update it every week. And then there's various things about the races that I organise, and and I'm going to write a blog about the Ramsay, and I'll put that up there fairly soon. I'm sort of writing it at the moment. So, and there's also bits about, there's my coaching, and if I'm doing any talks anywhere, about where you can see me talking. So yeah, it's my little website.
I love it, and I'll make sure I put the link down below. I was thinking, what does the Run BG stand for? Because I was thinking, but now I was thinking, does it Bob Graham?
Yeah, my brother thought, I thought years ago, I thought, right, I'm going to have a website, I don't know what to call it, and he's like, Run BG. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. It's a nice tone to it.
Done and dusted. Well, I'll put the links down below as well. But you do actually work with clients as well, which is fantastic, and do the personal coaching. I mean, how does that work?
Well, somebody will contact me, and I've got 3 different levels of coaching, and I'm coaching sort of people from beginners right up to people that want to do, like win races. And so I've got sort of 3 people doing like their first ultra, the Yorkshireman full marathon in September. And I've just had 3 people doing the Bob Graham, 2 of which completed last weekend, while I was doing the Ramsay, which was really exciting. I couldn't follow them, obviously, but it was great to get back. And first thing I did was check whether they'd finished it or not. So, I coached them to the BG. And then I've got other people doing sort of triathlons and 100-mile races. So I've got 3 different levels. I'm not very good at this self-promotion bit, but I've got 3 different levels of sort of coaching. So the first one is where people just want me to do them a plan. So that's £50 a month, and I'll do them like an 8-week plan. It'll be ongoing, work towards their sort of final race. And then for the final race, I'll look into that race, and I'll tell them about all that information that I was saying people need to know about the checkpoints and what food they get. The distances between the checkpoints is really important, and just things like that. And then I can do pacing schedules, because once I've coached them, I'll know how fast they'll go, and I'll be able to compare their performances against other people and who have done the race. And I think a race preparation is really, really, really important. All that sort of research into races. And then the second level is what I've got most people on, is the £100 a month, where it's sort of more ongoing, and I just like for the Bob Graham especially, I can give so much more advice on just the training, on the recceing, and then how to get supporters and how to organise your supporters, and sort of how to organise your own time and your own and mental strength and stuff. So yeah, it's obviously the Bob Graham's sort of one of my areas of expertise, really. And I love coaching people. I just love seeing their faces when they're running up to the moot hall that they've done it. I wish I was there for everyone, but I can't be. And then I've got another level, which is the sort of gold level, where I just go all out. And this is for people that sort of probably nearly winning races already, and they probably want to be winning races. So they'll go for the higher level. But you can find out. I'm actually going to change quite a bit of the website. I think I want to sort of have it as more practical, so that people can see what they're sort of getting and what I can do for them. I've been coaching for about 3 years now, and I really enjoy it.
No, that's fantastic. And also, I mean, I do think coaching makes a huge difference to people, and just having, an expert, which you are, in these races, is incredible. So, Nicky, just looking back about the running journey that you've been on, and surviving cancer, what have you learned most over the last sort of 15, 16 years, and any sort of final tips or advice for women out there?
I think it's to find a level of running that fits in with your lifestyle, and because that took me quite a few years. I was I went from not doing many miles, 20 miles, to then I decided to do 60 miles a week. And then I got loads of injuries, and then I backed down a bit. And it's to sort of, because I think your running is personal to you. So somebody else, your friend, could be doing 60 miles a week. And she's really happy on that. But if you can only basically fit in 25 miles a week, then do that, and don't worry about the fact that everybody else seems to be doing more than you. It's definitely, it's definitely look at your mileage and check that it suits you. And eventually you will find a routine that your body's really happy with, and that you progress doing that mileage. I think that's the biggest tip. Don't just pull a plan out of a magazine and follow it, because it's very unlikely to fit your lifestyle. People, like women especially, they've got families, they've got kids, they've got jobs, they've got so much in their lives that they've got to organise, and then having to try and fit in a run. But I would say, do put yourself first every now and again and get out and do that run.
No, absolutely. I do. I was actually, I went through an experience where basically I massively overtrained for MDS, and the running completely destroyed me. And that was because I was listening to so many other people and, doing ridiculous amounts of miles every week, as well as strength training and yoga and swimming and everything else. And it really does come down to those quality miles. So it's not these, just going out running, and it's almost like junk miles. I think psychologically sometimes it makes you feel better, but it was actually quite surprising when you said you only did about 30, 40 miles per week, but you can still go out and do these incredible races. So I do think, it can be done when you know your body and you know what you're doing and you've got that level of expertise. Nicky, thank you so much for coming on the Tough Girl podcast and sharing more about your story and your journey and all the advice and tips that you've provided. Absolutely inspirational. I'll make sure I put a link down below to runbg.co.uk, and people can find out more about all of the different races that you've done and more about your personal coaching.
Thank you. It's been brilliant.
Hey tribe, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Nicky. What an absolute inspiration. I hope she's inspired you to put your running shoes on and go outside, whether that's on a trail or on a road. So this month, it's actually a very, very exciting month, because it was on the 4th of August 2015 that the Tough Girl podcast was started. So we are celebrating the 3-year anniversary, which is just amazing. And this year's we've been off to an incredible start. We hit 500,000 downloads, absolutely amazing. We're currently coming up to 600,000 downloads, which is awesome. The Tough Girl podcast won the Be a Game Changer Awards for the Women's Sports Trust and Media Initiative, which was, incredible. It really does show you how needed this podcast is, how important it is to get these role models out there, how important it is to share these stories, share these words of advice, and to get women's voices heard. It's obviously something that I am very, very passionate about, and I'm so excited to continue doing what I do. I could not do this, though, without the support of my patrons who support me every single month. There's over 200 individuals all over the world who every month are donating between $5 and $25, which really does make a massive difference, as what that does is it allows me to have an income every single month, so I know how much money I've got coming in and how I can allocate that resource. How can I invest it in the business? How can I invest it in me to make sure that I can continue to spread this message? If you've been listening to the Tough Girl podcast for a while now, please think about paying it forward. Think about contributing if you can. If you listen every single week, pay $5 a month, pay $10 a month. It really does make a massive, massive difference. If you want to learn more, then please do go check out Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl podcast. And there's lots of different levels. If you sign up at the $2 level, you're obviously going to get a lot of karma, which I really do appreciate, but you'll also get your name on the dedicated patrons page on my website. If you sign up at the $5 level, you'll also get your name on the patrons page on the website. And I'd also invite you to come and join the Tough Girl Tribe, which is a closed Facebook group dedicated to the female listeners or the female patrons of the Tough Girl podcast. It's a very supportive environment. It's basically a fantastic way to connect with other listeners of the Tough Girl podcast, because I don't know about you, sometimes it can be very isolating depending on where you live when you tell people you want to go do a triathlon, want to go run a marathon, or want to go cycling around the world, or do whatever it is that you want to do. Sometimes you just need other people who are going to be supportive, who understand where you're coming from, and you get that when you join the Facebook group. It's a very supportive and encouraging and safe space to be able to share those dreams, discuss those fears as well, and to get advice and tips from other women who've been out there and who have done it. You can sign up for $10 a month, which would be incredible. Again, your name will be listed on the patrons page. You'll also be invited to join the closed Facebook group. You'll also get regular shout outs on the Twitter and my Twitter account, @_tough_girl. Just have to let me know your handle and you'll start getting those tweets as well. It does make a massive difference. So please do go check out patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. My goal is to reach 250 patrons. Well, ideally, I really need to reach 300 patrons before I start my next challenge, but I can get to 250. That would be an incredible start. We're currently at 210 patrons, which is amazing. So a massive thank you to everybody who is supporting. It's it's life-changing, to be honest. So pay it forward, be part of the mission, help me to increase the amount of female role models in the media. If you want to learn more about all of the incredible women that I've interviewed, then please do go check out toughgirlchallenges.com, which is where you can find details of all of the previous episode. Over 170 episodes are now available for you to listen. That's on the Tough Girl podcast. That's Tough Girl Extra. That's 7 Women, 7 Challenges. If you want to go back, you can also listen to my daily podcast from 2017, where I share more about what it was like every single day in the run up to doing the Appalachian Trail in 100 days. And then you can switch over to the vlogs and watch the daily vlogs from the Appalachian Trail. Have an amazing day wherever you are. Tell one friend about the Tough Girl podcast, share the message, and encourage them and inspire them to go after their own personal dreams. Have an incredible day, and I'll be back with you next Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time for another awesome episode of the Tough Girl podcast. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.